Welcome back to the Unleashed. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. Well, guys, here we are. Things are getting crazy. I was just driving into town, and I see that gas is up to $4.99 where I'm at. It's almost $5, and I know it's higher in other places, but they're going to skyrocket this thing as much as they can. And, of course, this is going to lead to more collapse everywhere and stuff. But, frankly, to get to the point here and to be absolutely blunt, if God doesn't come back here soon, we're all going to be up shit creek, okay? It is getting absolutely terrible everywhere. We know that the economy is crashing and stuff like that, and it's not just happening here, it's happening all over the world right now. Alright? So in the latest news, you guys know where I stand on this. I believe it's gonna happen this year. I just woke up, it was yesterday morning or the day before, and something popped up on my screen. I was looking at the different Shemitah cycles and stuff, and it wasn't that, it was the moons. Back when 2014 and 15 hit, and there was the blood moon tetrad that was going on, I got to see every single one of those, but I was looking at the significance of it, and when it happened, and the symmetry that happened between when it first started happening and the days between afterwards, and the time that the moons and stuff. Lady, you just had to park right there and blast me with your reflection. Unbelievable. But the cycles are like in absolutely perfect order, and I was looking at it and it was saying that it hasn't happened like that before, right? And good grief, I'm gonna have to put my glasses on. But I was looking at it and I was thinking that's really interesting, but the last one that was seen over Jerusalem was this super blood moon, right? It was the last of the four. And it happened to be September 28th, 2015. And I was looking at that and I realized, that's exactly 7 years to this September 28th, which would be like Rosh Hashanah or whatever in Israel. And that was, and that one was seen, it was a super blood moon on the last of the four, and it was seen over Jerusalem. And I couldn't help but think that there was some significance to that, almost like a 7-year warning from those, because they were so significant. They were seen by everybody, and it was the last time that this is going to happen for another 500 years or so, right? On the significance of each time when those played out. You guys remember how it goes. You know the story of it and stuff like that. And over the centuries, how there was blood moons that happened in a row like that on their Passover and their tabernacles, and then it would be a significant matter that would take place right afterwards. And the same with these ones. And everybody was watching, of course, and there was Revelation 12 sign and stuff like that, right? But anyways, I just can't help but think that, it's another marker that this is definitely going to be the year. If this isn't, all right, first off, there's a whole bunch of things that are going to be thrown into the spokes of this whole operation. And one would be that it still would not fit into the timeline of Israel becoming a nation and stuff like that. The tribulation would be standing outside of that. And that would open up a whole new deal. But I don't believe that at all. This Rosh Hashanah is going to mark the civil year for Israel, and they're going to go into the 70. It's going to be more than that. But they're going to go into 2023. All right. And that's going to mark 7 years to 2030. And we know that the elites already have this plan until 2030, right? And this is going to mark 7 years to that time on a Jewish calendar, right? We don't hit 2023 until the Gregorian, but if you're going by theirs will start this September 28th, all right? And that just happens to be like a 7-year marker from that last blood moon, and I thought that was very, very interesting. And the way things are lining up, like I say, I totally think it's this year. When? Who knows? In further news, not only is this the end of a Shemitah cycle or whatever, getting ready to start a new one that, we've talked about before and throughout different times for punishment or things that Israel have gone through during these 7-year marks, they start and end on phases like that, which is why many people have believed that the tribulation would actually be on one of these Shemitah cycles at the beginning of one, starting it off, all right? So that's very interesting too, and this year lines up with that, right? But another thing that I want to point out is as I was watching last year, when I was told it was most definitely this year, and it was very encouraging. Would it be before their New Year in the fall, Rosh Hashanah? Would it be our Gregorian calendar, which we watched and it went away? Would it be April 2nd on their religious New Year, which was back in April 2nd? Would it be exactly to the day, May 13th? And then we discovered that Sivan's 2nd is June 1st, now we're past that. Well, to keep adding on to this, and no intention to, I wasn't told any of this in the very beginning or anything like that, but it does seem to keep happening. But this is as far out as I can possibly see. This happens to be a leap year. 30 days are added back on Adar 2, back in between April and March, okay, for this year on the Jewish calendar. And that would push it out. And it's interesting because I brought that up with my little brother a couple days ago. We were talking on the phone, and asked him if he thought there was any significance. I was like, when you were told and you got your sign that it was this year as well, it was exactly 31 or 32 days apart. And I asked him, like, do you think there's any significance to that? He said he didn't know, and I just thought about it. But then, more time went on, and it was shortly after that when I realized that this is also a new year, and it could be a type of guardrail or in between, or some sort of measurement that was meant to get our attention or something like that. I don't know, but it very well could be that it was a type of hint that, that there's another 30 days added into this, and then that would end up sometime around the 1st of July, 2nd or 3rd of July or something like that. And it has crossed my mind before, especially with the whole UFO thing. If it goes down exactly like I saw, if that would ever correlate to Independence Day, just like the movie that they put out in the 90s, where the UFOs show up around July 4th. That would be something very interesting. But I don't know. It might just be a type of guideline or something like that. I mean, I'm still looking at Pentecost this weekend. It's supposed to be stormy and rainy all weekend, so, I mean, that's not what I saw. So, I mean, I don't know. Is it out the window? It's rather nice out right now, and it's supposed to be raining all day, so I don't know. Things can change. But there is a 30 days that have been added on to this year because it's a leap year, and I don't know if that plays a part into it or not. I'm just sharing what I know, and I thought that was kind of interesting, and I thought I'd let you guys know. So, anyways. But I know there's so many of you guys that are like, you're under the pressure. I know there's health issues and everything else that people are dealing with, and the struggle's real right now. It really is frustrating. So many of us are like out on our last limb, waiting for the Lord to come back, and I know how you feel on that. It's really tough, and I'm at that place too. I don't want to go back into the whole society of work or anything else like that, and I might have to for a short time or whatever else. I'm not sure. I don't know what God has planned. I just don't. And I'm watching and waiting and praying and hoping the best that this thing's about to be done with. And I really hope that it is. But only time will tell. I just don't know what God has planned. But I know that this can't go on any longer. I mean, they've pulled the trigger on this whole operation. I've told you guys before, when they did that and they set that up, we got half the world's population that's already been changed over. And 90% of Israel has already been involved in that. The only way that God's bringing 1/3 through, like Zechariah, is going to be through lost tribes that are scattered around the world. And I believe that after the start of the tribulation or World War III, it'll be a beacon for them that they can come home or whatever else. But in the process, I mean, God's going to allow Israel to be cleaned out. Anybody that he, the people that are involved, I wish I could just straight up say it, but the restrictions on being able to have a decent conversation are just unbelievable on YouTube. It's absolutely terrible, and nobody wants to go anywhere else. And I mean, I understand that you're comfortable and stuff in your zone, and some people have come over and subscribed on Rumble and some stuff like that. So I mean, I put the videos out there, so if you can't find me here or anything happens, you can go over there. But honestly, it's just ridiculous. They've blocked everything. They don't want people to know the truth, and I mean, and nobody wants to believe, anything. They think everything's a conspiracy and stuff. So it makes it so tough to talk on this stuff. I mean, we got to watch everything, and especially if they've got you in their crosshairs at all. Because, like I say, I mean, when they're taking down your video on the Antichrist, I mean, they're totally. I mean, they got your number. You know what I'm saying? So it's just ridiculous. But I'm watching things fall apart, the same as you guys. It's totally crazy. the gas prices are outrageous. I mean, nobody's going to be able to continue to be able to handle this and continue to work or anything else like that. I mean, it's going to shut down everything. It totally is, and we're watching it happen right now. It's putting people under more pressure until finally there's going to be a break. When that's going to happen, I mean, people seem to be resilient on this, and it hasn't happened yet, but I mean, it should have happened a long time ago. It's the whole frog in boiling water concept, and I mean, it's a reality, and most people don't want to fight back or anything like that. And even worse, anybody that does, they would turn them in so they go back to the reality, even if it was only for a day. And that's the sad truth there. I mean, you got to remember, when the revolution happened in the first place, it was only 3% of people. Everybody else was turncoats that would tell the British, exactly where they were and stuff like that. And they were fighting against that as well as the tyranny of the British and stuff like that, to ultimately give those very people that would turn them in more freedom and stuff. So, I mean, it's real sick, but nothing's changed since then except the numbers have grown. There's even less people now that would do the right thing. So, yeah, it's crazy. It really is. And I just want out of here. I'm so done with it all. I really am. And, for those that have been looking for the Lord and waiting and seeing all this stuff, paying attention to it, we know that you're ready to. I mean, but it's all we can do is wait, because we don't control this. I mean, God does. He's got this whole thing in His time, and what He has planned and what He's going to do, and how He's going to bring it about. I mean, we just don't know yet. I don't understand His methods. I know that He was talking to me last year. I know that He re-emphasized that when He talked to my little brother, and there was no mistake on any of that. All right, let me tell you guys a quick story here. I was coming back. Me and my brother were out, and we were out that night. We were riding motorcycles, and we were coming back from the town of Palisade. And there was a little offshoot road to get to his house. And the speed around it is like 25 miles an hour. It's a super sharp 90-degree turn. And I was on my motorcycle, my crotch rocket. My brother was on his bike or whatever, and he wasn't trying to keep up with me or anything like that, but I turned off by this overpass to come around this turn, and I was doing 60 or 70 miles an hour, and I was just going to lay into this 20-mile-an-hour turn, like lay into it. Obviously I had to, and blast around it. But as I came around the turn, I had the bike all the way over. It wasn't enough. And when you're in that far of a lean, you can't hit the brakes or anything like that. You're totally screwed. So you have to ride it out. And as it ended up going out into the gravel, and there's a rock quarry there where they cut rocks and stuff like that. And right by the driveway, the entrance into this rock quarry, which is all gravel and stuff like that, there's a tire that's out there, and it's a cement tire. It's filled with cement, like a marker to the driveway or whatever else, so people don't drive too far out into it or whatever else. And I'm out in this, totally laid over on my crotch rocket. Man, there's some good tires, and God was totally with me at the time, but I had not slid out or anything like that, right? And I'm laying over and coming around this turn, and I know that cement tire's right there, right? And as I'm coming around, I'm like, man, I'm going to hit that thing, and the bike's going to flip, and I'm going to land on a rock, right? And so I'm coming around, and I'm like, man, I got to get the bike to slow down a little bit, but I can't obviously hit the front brakes where your real stopping power is or anything like that. And I'm out in the gravel, and I can't do anything else, but I'm like, I can lightly tap the rear brakes, right? So I come around, and I hit the bike's rear brakes just enough. It kicks out in the gravel, drops me about 10 miles an hour. Double tap it again, boom, kicks it out again, slows me down about another 10 miles an hour. I get the bike more upright just in time, and I get around this tire, right, that's full of cement. And when this is happening at the speed that I'm going, I'd say I have about 100 yards of space when this turn and everything like that I can see, and I'm looking at it in my mind right now until I get to the tire. I have 2 times, boom, drops me about 10 miles an hour, so I'm down in the 50s or so. Another boom, drop down into the 40s, and I get down to around 35 miles an hour or so, where I'm not having to be leaned up so much, and I get away from this tire just in time, and I just miss it, right? as I'm going around, and I'm watching the whole thing as it's drawn out for about 100 yards or so, right? Which gives me enough time to, and the very mechanics of hitting the brakes, the bike slowing down, skidding a little bit each time, right? So I need this period of time and distance for this to happen. And I get by just in time, and me and my brother drive home, and I tell him, I was like, whew, that was a close one, you know? I was like, I went into that turn just a little bit too fast. Well, I went back the next day to look at that, and when I did, to my total surprise, that whole incident that was drawn out for about 100 yards, which I saw in my mind and everything like that, you know, which gave the mechanics of being able to stop the bike and everything, it happened within 10 feet, okay? Now, this is absolutely impossible, and you guys already know that. There's no way there's mechanics for that to allow to happen, to drop down at the speed that I did, why the bike's laid over, to skid out or anything like that, right? But by the time that turn starts right there, which is this super hairpin turn, and that cement tire was about 10 feet, all right? What took place that night, what I was able to do, should not have happened. It does not exist. And what it took place is God stretched out the dimension for me. He literally stretched it out, gave me more time to not get into a wreck. Every time that I've ever got on that motorcycle, I've prayed before I ride. God, keep the cops away from me. All right, help me not to get any tickets. Help me to be vigilant and spot cops 100 miles away, because that is the biggest problem when you're riding a motorcycle like that, right? The second I'm on it, you're instantly breaking the law. It's just what it is, right? And that's totally fine, because, I mean, it doesn't mean anything anyways. They're man-made, stupid rules that have nothing to do with what is morally right and correct, all right? So, anyways, watch out for the cops, keep me safe, everything like that, you know? I always pray before I get on the bike. Well, same as that time, and what happened is God literally stretched out the dimension for me and gave me enough time to get the bike slowed down enough to get around that cement tire, and all this happened within 10 feet, which is absolutely impossible, right? And I'll never forget, it was amazing. And I told my little brother about it. I told him the whole story. I was like, dude, I had about 100 yards or so to do this all. I mean, I had to do it at lightning fast speed at that speed that I was going at. But it's just not that's not happening in 10 feet, you know? And I literally got done talking to my mom about that story a few days before my brother got his sign. And my little brother then has his motorcycle incident. And the whole reason that I bring up that story is the same thing happened to my little brother before he found the arrowhead. He's driving up the road that night. He looks over, and God tells him, what you're looking for, your sign, is over there, and points out to the neighbor's field. Gives him a chance to see it. He sees the gully of dirt and everything like that. And he continues on his ride before he gets home that night and says, okay, God, if you're really talking to me, it's 10 minutes before dark. I'll walk out there right to that spot, and we'll see if that arrowhead's really there, like you said, right? Which he goes out there and he gets his confirmation. It's directly right in the spot within 10 minutes, right? So my brother goes back the next day. He's riding his motorcycle, and he's looking where God told him and reminiscing the whole thing. And my brother tells me a very similar story. He's like, I don't even know how that conversation could have taken place, or I had time to look over there. Because when I drove back, that very moment where I saw, man, it was only a half second before the hill or some stuff gets in the way, and you can't even see that spot. He's like, whatever happened, it's like it was stretched out, or God gave me more time so that we could have that conversation in the first place. And I thought to myself, how interesting. That's exactly what happened to me that night when we were riding bikes. And of course, I believe that was to get my attention as well, you know, that God was totally behind this. He was watching the whole situation, and then gave my brother that confirmation, okay? The point being, everything that I was told last year, as well as my brother's double up confirmation to get everybody's point that, hey, this is legit, and to show you guys the confirmations was all real, all right? That's never changed. It was all real. What God's planning behind it and his purpose, that I don't know. But the whole thing has been real the whole time. And I've shared that with everybody, you know, as closely as I possibly can. And I told him right from the start, I'm like, you realize what you're telling me right here? I mean, nobody's heard anything like this, especially down to a year's time period. I'm like, you're going to have to give me a confirmation. I'm like, it's only fair, especially if I'm going to be sharing this with people. And of course I did. And all this happened a week or more before I even put it out, because I continued to pray about it and ask him, and he continued to push me to tell people to put it out, right? So what he has planned with it, what he's doing, what his purpose was for it, whether, you know, I mean, it's played a whole bunch of different parts as well. It definitely gave me some encouragement last year because, I mean, I was seriously at all loss of hope. And last year was very difficult, especially being out homeless again for as long as I was. And I was at a breaking point for sure. So I mean, it was very encouraging, and God has a purpose behind it. But I also believe, that He meant what He said, and I find it interesting that I keep finding how there's an extension on this year, and I know it's another extension because it's a leap year of 30 days, but I mean, I can't go any further than that as far as I know, unless it's some miraculous year where there's another certain amount of days. But I mean, let's get real here for a second. Like, I don't expect that. Each one of these has been segmented to its own spot, a little further, a little further, a little further, and this one seems that, as far as I can tell, is the very last. Like, yeah, there's 30 days added. Is this going to happen within this time period? Or is all I can say is that we're going to find out. And I know that it's happening this year. And to know and believe 100%, I mean, see what's going on, that it is happening this year, I mean, I don't understand. There would be no reason for it to be drawn out or anything like that further. So I just want to bring that point out. But things are unraveling very quickly. And it's getting tough for everybody. I mean, it's crunching down. It's crunch time, big time for everybody, especially with, like, trying to come up with the finances just to put, food and gas on the table. Not gas on the table, but in your vehicle, and food on the table, because, I mean, it's getting outrageously expensive, and we know this is going to be a part of the third horseman. And, I mean, and the war thing, it literally could just snap at a moment's time. It literally could, all right? And they're still planning on more crap with this. I mean, they're constantly trying to push that. I mean, it has nothing to do with anything other than control, manipulation, and all the stuff that I can't even talk about. You guys already know about it. Whatever you do, you stay away from it at all costs. I've said it a million times. But you absolutely stay away from that thing. Do not fall for it. Do not fall for any of the new crap that's coming out that has to do with the movie Outbreak or any of that stuff, all right? Don't listen to it. It's a bunch of gosh dang nonsense, all right? And continue to hang in there and resist. But I mean, it's all manipulation to get people to get involved with that, which has nothing to do with any type of cure whatsoever, all right? I mean, literally, I can't even talk about it. It's so stupid. It really pisses me off that literally I cannot even talk about it on a channel that's free for anybody to watch or not watch because they're blocking it so much, all right? Which should tell you everything that you need to know, all right? It should tell you everything that you need to know, but people are dense, all right? And speaking of dense, there's turning to a resurgence of flat earthers on my channel, all right? I cannot emphasize this enough. I cannot stand flat earthers, all right? I cannot stand the idea of it. It is not intellectually thinking. It's not comprehensively thinking. It's not intelligent on any part whatsoever. NASA lies. No kidding, they lie, all right? So do you. That doesn't mean that everything that's coming out of your mouth is a lie, all right? The pictures are fake. Some pictures have been edited, all right, and blocked. Other ones are absolutely real, all right? We live on a sphere. Is that the truth? No. It's hollow. It has an 800-mile thick crust, and there's a whole interior inside the planet with an interior sun and civilization of giants and advanced technology and cities, all right? That's the truth, all right? It's not flat, okay? I've pointed this out a million times. I've shown different videos of the northern star, all right, Polaris, and camera watching it at night, all right, and watching it spin around a center location, and the southern one down by the Southern Cross where it spins around a center location, all right. Already that makes it impossible for the earth to be flat. You would be looking at a shield like the rings of Saturn going out, and you'd watch the stars as far as possible, and they'd circle around as the earth spun, all right, at night, okay. And then I've shown video of an equator location where you can look at the north and southern hemisphere at the same time spinning, which is impossible on a flat plane, all right? It's absolutely impossible. This is just one fact, not to mention Coriolis effect and all the other plethora of things and points that there are that the earth is not flat, all right? And yet there's this resurgence, which I told you before. Flat earthers are under a curse. This is what God told me. And people are asking, oh, I don't understand. Why would I be under a curse? All right? You're retarded, okay? And I will not hesitate to block anyone who starts to push flat earth on my channel, because I literally detest the stupidity. I cannot stand it, okay? All right, I'm going to tell you the story again for the 100th time. Here we go. In 2016, in the whole bafflement of watching flat earthers and how people could be that dumb, all right, I watched a flat earth convention on YouTube, all right, and it was a whole bunch of them gathered around and they were talking about it. At that moment, I was able to see in the spirit, they all had a little gray cloud on the back right side of their head, okay? I couldn't believe what I was seeing, but I didn't know what it was, all right? And I've shared this before, tons of times. So I watched in the convention as it went around, and each one of the people at this convention talking about flat earth had this little gray cloud in the back right side of their head that I could see, and I didn't know what it was. And then it got to the main guy that was talking at the time, somebody I had no idea who he was. I just know his name at the time was Rob Skibba, right? And he had a cloud around the back of his head that was gray that almost looked like two hands wrapped around the back of his head. It was huge, and it was bigger than anybody else's at the convention. And then it went to a lady, and she didn't have one. And I said, oh, great. I thought I was just about onto something. No, I guess not. I don't know what I was looking at, but obviously this is not a mark of the flat earthers. And then the lady, when she was asked, said, well, I don't actually believe in flat earth. I'm just at this convention to see what they're talking about. That's when I was like, okay, it's back on the table. Maybe there is a sign here. What is it? All the people that believe in flat earth have this little gray smoke cloud, puffy looking thing in the spirit behind the right back side of their head. But this lady that I thought believed in it doesn't believe in it, right? And she doesn't have it, okay? I don't get an answer from God. Time goes on. And then, finally, in 2018, when I'm out in my truck, homeless for the first time, I'm out there talking to God about flat earthers. It's still bothering me. Boom, I get bumped into from the left. And instantly I'm told flat earthers under a curse. I'm like, no way. Instantly, the first verse that comes to my mind, because they love false doctrine, I give them over to a reprobate mind, a mind that's incapable of learning, understanding, or anything like this, all right? When you show a flat earther, all right, the different videos, and you're showing them the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere at the same time, which can only happen on a globe spinning, all right? The only other way that would happen where it could be a flat surface is if you were on one side of the plate or the other, and then you would have to be able to go over the transition, all right, which does not take place at the equator. We already know that it's a globe hemisphere, okay? That is how it is, all right? And you can see it from space, or anybody that goes up, even in old Concorde flights. I mean, there's just a million different ways you can look at it. I can look at the clouds right now as they go over the horizon and down over the side. If it was flat, you would see it stretch out into the unknown, as far as you could possibly see it, right, in a plane setting, all right? Same with the sun setting and everything else, okay? All right? So why is this not even capable of registering in a flat earther's mind? Because they've been given over to a reprobate mind. It's incapable of learning. It's incapable of understanding, all right? Because they're under a curse. And that is when I said, wait a minute, God. Is that what you showed me back in 2016 when I looked at that flat earth convention? Is that what a curse looks like in the spirit? Is that what I was seeing? I got to find this. I'm like, who was that guy that was leading that whole operation? So I went back, I remembered his name, Rob Skibba, right? So I go back, look at him, start looking at what he's teaching, because he's supposed to be a Christian, and then that's when I found it. Gigantic anti-Semitic, anti-Israel biblical teacher, all right? Completely against the Jews, believes that all the Jews are the Rothschilds, the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and totally hates them, believes they've been replaced and everything else, and is teaching his whole congregation that, right? False teaching, warned about in Romans 11 by Paul. Be careful, you'll get plucked at yourself, all right? I've warned about it before, all right? Just one of the many signs, one of the things that can happen in false teaching, all right? This guy and his whole congregation and their whole flat earther, because of false teaching, have been given over into a reprobate mind, and their consequences, flat earth, they're made to look like fools in front of everybody, okay? If you're a flat earther on this, I'm telling you right now, you are a complete moron, all right? And you deserve it because of false teaching, false doctrine, all right? So, time goes on, all right? I'm telling this story over and over again. I keep saying the same thing because I keep getting more morons that are flat earthers in my videos, all right? And it's driving me nuts, all right? I just can't dump you fast enough. I just can't get rid of you. I can't piss you off fast enough to go somewhere else. I want you to go somewhere else. I want you to find yourself in an absolute oblivion and in punishment for your own stupidity, all right? You deserve to be punished for being that stupid, okay? But as I watched this guy, right, and I realized that he is totally anti-Semitic, and right, in his teaching, and he's been given over to a reprobate mind. I started discovering other flat earthers, and they weren't anti-Semitic, okay? And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Why are they flat earthers? And then I would discover, boom, they're into another false teaching. They're into another false teaching. So the flat earthers aren't just anti-Semitic. Some could be, some aren't. All right? They have a false teaching in another area. And this is when it started. And just like I've told you before, when God talks, it's like a wellspring. It's a fountain that just keeps coming up with information, all right? And this is when I discovered that the threads of deceit, which I didn't know what it was. I'm like, wait a minute. So if you have false teaching in different areas of the Bible, that's fundamental gospel teaching, that's truth, all right? Does that mean that there's a consequence on the other side, all right? For being delusional in an area, right? And I'm like, it's like a thread. You pull on one end and there's another, all right? And I'm like, that's so crazy. I'm like, this is very interesting, God. And I'm like, what should I call it? I'm like, I want to call it a thread because, I mean, there's an end. There's a consequence for teaching or believing in false doctrine. And there's a consequence to it to the other side. And I'm like, what should I call it? And I'm like, threads of... God says deceit. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to call it. And that is what I've called it ever since, all right? The threads of deceit, all right? And it plays out more than just flat earth. If you're into fundamentally flawed teaching in the Bible, all right? Let's say you're a Seventh-day Adventist, okay? You believe in, you're putting yourself under Jewish law that you don't completely follow. You're only following parts of it, all right? First off, you're breaking the rules of Galatians, all right? Your religion that was created and... the reading of the teaching of the Bible by Paula G. White, all right, and her idea of it, and then creating a religion from it in the 1800s, as well as Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnessry, all right? You're failing miserably right from the start, all right? And you believe that you've taken over for the Jews. The church are the Jews. So what does that do? All the parts in Revelation where the Jews are going through it and the church has been removed, now that you've replaced them and you believe that you are them, all that is talking to you. Your very punishment is you're going through the tribulation from your own belief, all right? And that's why they believe in a post-tribulation rapture, all right? Or Mormonism, or Catholicism or whatever else, where God just comes back at a certain time and they believe that Revelations has already taken place and stuff like that, all right? All right, your consequence is being played out as your belief, all right? You understand? And I've said this before, and it seems like an interesting concept, but your very belief that you believe, that you think you believe, it's a mid-trib rapture, it's a post-trib rapture, is your consequence for having false doctrinal beliefs, all right? You're going to go into the tribulation, all right, because you're teaching and believing in a false doctrine that has nothing to do with God, and your consequence is literally what you believe, and you don't even realize it yet. All right, your consequence is being played out as your belief. I've said this before. It's probably over everybody's head, but if it's not and you understand what I'm saying, you can understand the depth of the concept. It's totally crazy, all right? And it's hard to imagine, but it's real, all right? And this plays out in multiple different facets of the whole split with religion and everything else that's going on. There's so many teachings that are kooky and stuff and out there. If you believe in the rapture, right, there's a bunch of people out there that are once saved, always saved, right? Totally a false teaching, totally against multiple scriptures, right? That point to the dangers of believing in the once saved, always saved, and how, no, it's a godly lifestyle that we live. It has nothing to do with works. It has to do with righteousness. We have made an agreement when we've given our lives to God to start to step away from that stuff, and we continue on that the rest of the days of our life. If you go back into it and you don't care, you don't ask for forgiveness, you don't have anything to do with God, you just said a prayer and you want all the goodies at the end, you're not saved, you're not going to be, or if you stepped into that by listening to a false teacher, then you've walked out of God's hand, you've walked out of his safety. It's a totally false teaching, all right? So they believe, a lot of them, in the pre-tribulation rapture. Does that mean they're going? No, absolutely not, all right? They have their other consequence, and theirs is to see it, to know that it's coming, and then watch it happen right in front of their face and get left behind, all right? It's going to be the biggest slap in their face that they could possibly have, all right? There's multiple different consequences that people face and stuff like that. The flat earth movement, though, to point it out for the last time, is totally false, right? It has been the whole time. I've already told you the earth is hollow. There's an opening at the southern hemisphere in Antarctica. There's one at the North Pole, all right? That's about 90 miles wide. The one that Olaf Jensen, his dad, went through, all right? The one that Admiral Byrd went up there, and in 1947, they gave him the Congressional Medal of Honor for flying around it. He flew inside of it, all right? There's a whole other world inside. The Romanian Sphinx story adds into it when they found more tunnels and entrances inside that have to do with the history of the earth. And all the stuff that's involved with that, as well as the Caesar Brad story that's involved with that, which was his alias. And and now he's inside the planet, right? That's the truth of the earth. It's hollow, okay? It's one of the biggest secrets that America and the rest of the world share, okay? And there's giants inside of it, all right? It's not flat. That's a stupid idea. It's totally retarded. So when you say, the Bible says it, no, the Bible doesn't say it. It's your interpretation of the Bible that says it, okay? And your interpretation is false. You understand? If I look in the Bible and I read in there from my interpretation, the sky is pink, and I step outside and the sky is blue, that does not mean the sky is pink. My interpretation of it is wrong, all right? It is a blue sky. It is the same way with your interpretation. It says there's a sphere and a firmament over us and everything else and blah, 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 all right? That means it's flat. No, it means your interpretation of what you're reading is wrong, all right? And when we have evidence and proof that point to it being not flat, but actually a sphere, all right, in multiple different ways, then you have to go back to the drawing board and be like, well, whatever this interpretation is, whatever it means, all right, my interpretation is wrong. And I'm going to tell you exactly the best description of it. It sounds like a description from inside the planet. It sounds like exactly what it is. It sounds like a description of being inside the hollow earth, all right? And when I hear the firmament, all the stuff over the top and everything else, all right, water above, water below, and everything like that, all right? That sounds exactly like somebody who would be inside the planet, possibly if that's where the Garden of Eden secretly was already, all right? And they're writing about it or being told about it when the earth was created and how it looked, all right? That is the best description I can make of it. Otherwise, the interpretation that you have of flat earth is wrong. I've said it 1,000 times, all right? It's totally false. Your idea is wrong, all right? Your interpretation is wrong. It is not flat. The Bible does not say that. Your interpretation does, and your interpretation is wrong, all right? It's as simple as that, all right? I hope this is the last time that I have to say anything on this. It really is ridiculous. It's backtracking so much further than diaper level. You're like preschool. It's stupid, all right? Don't tell me how much you know and all the information and how smart you are if you're believing in the whole flat earth idea and the people that teach it, all right? They've been given over to a reprobate mind, all right? Their whole teachings have, and behind it is the threads of deceit, all right? False doctrine is at the core of it, okay? It's ridiculous on multiple different levels, and the people that believe it, all right? And then you've got all the different aspects of it, all right? Some of them believe the government put the sun there, all right? All right? And then there's the religious ones that, who knows? But most of them all come to the same conclusion that are on the religious side, that you can't be saved unless you believe in flat earth, all right? And I've heard it before in the comments tons of times. You can't actually be saved if you don't believe in flat earth. So now you're not being saved by Jesus Christ and believing in him. You're being saved if you believe in flat earth. And anybody who does, they can all be welcome and they can all go to heaven and stuff like that, all right? It's its own cult doctrine, all right? And it's driving me nuts. Please don't ever talk about it again. And if you do, just say flat earth are here so I can block you. We'll just get you out of there, and then you'll never have to pop off again, because I don't want to hear it. It's so stupid, all right? Oh, man, that feels good to get off my shoulders, but seriously, all right, back to everything that's going on, all right? Time's up. I know it's going down this year. When it's going to happen, I don't know. I've given you guys my latest information I have on it, and I just don't know. It's in God's hands what he's doing, but I know it can't go on much further than this, because the whole thing's about to come to a complete collapsing stop, all right? And yes, there's people out there that are still getting ready to get married. They're still getting engaged. This stuff is still happening. But it cannot continue much longer before it's going to come to a screeching halt. And this looks like it's the last year that that's going to possibly be able to take place, all right? I don't see it going on any longer. I just don't, all right? So be encouraged with that. I know a lot of you guys have health issues or struggling with other things. You're totally by yourself. I totally get it. I understand. I mean, it's at a breaking point for so many of us, especially those that are empathetic and stuff like that are suffering from it, that just feel the negativity all around them that are dragging them down. All right? I totally understand it. I totally get it. It's dragging me down too. It's absolutely exhausting, okay? And it's everywhere. It's just constant pressure, constant trial. And we all want it to be over with. We want to go be with the Lord, right? We want to go to heaven, right? So be encouraged, because I know that it's going to be happening soon. I don't know when. I don't know what God has planned, but just keep looking up, keep praying, keep trusting him, because he's going to make a way to get us through this, all right? God bless. I'll catch you next one, Unleash, and hopefully I'll just see you in the air here soon. I don't know when this is going to happen. As all I know is that this is a leap year, like I say. Our 30 days added more. Are we looking at a time that's pushing out to possibly around the 1st of July? I mean, I just don't know. I think it's happening sooner than that. But I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm just watching and waiting like everybody else, all right? So, whatever encouragement that is in this, is all I can say is just hang in there and don't give up, all right? And any flat earthers, like seriously, just get lost. I can't stand you. I really can't. I have no place for you whatsoever. You've already been given over into a reprobate mind. If you actually believe in that stuff, all right, it's ridiculous. There is no scientific mind. There is no concept of any sort of rationality inside you, all right? It's gone. It's a false teaching right from the start, all right? And that is the story behind it. That is why flat earthers are under a curse, and that is what God told me, okay? And that's why I've shared hundreds of times, all right? So when you come along, oh, this guy seems to know his stuff. Wow, this is really great. No, you've just caught me in between a segment of bitching out flat earthers, all right? I do not agree with you. It's not okay. It's not cool, all right? It's a false teaching. The earth is hollow. It's 800 miles thick. I've gone over this before. The crust is, all right? The lava, the water pockets, everything's inside of it, all right? And there's a whole other world inside with an interior sun and cities, and it's one of the biggest secrets that America holds, all right? That is the truth. It's not flat, all right? So any of your teachings that you believe, well, that's what the Bible teaches, no. It's a false misinterpretation of your understanding of it, okay? And you might have been given over into a reprobate mind because of false teaching, all right? So get out of it as soon as you can and repent, all right? That's all I can say on that. God bless. I'll catch you next time in the nation. I'll see you in there. Bye.